Hello, hello, and welcome to the Color Whisperer Show, where we talk about all things home and healing. And today we have a special treat. Our guest today is amazing. I have worked with her, and she's one of the kingpins in my toolbox of people I call on when I need help. She is amazing, and today she's going to give you some secrets to get you decluttered and to stay that way. Because let's face it, anybody can clean up a mess, but creating it so that you don't make the mess again, that's the secret to keeping it really clean. So, welcome, Elva from Sensational Organizing.
Hello, Jeanette. Thank you so much
Hello,
for
it's so
having
good to
me.
see
I'm
you.
so honored to be on your podcast. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. It's a pleasure to have you here. So, let's talk about first of all, why organizing? What's your passion?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking that question. I love sharing my heart and the reason behind my business. So, I started organizing in 2015 after I found myself at a crossroads. I used to work for a water remediation company, and I discovered that it wasn't my calling, but I didn't quite know how to where to direct my life to. So I started for about 2 years. I went through this agonizing um,
Dark
journey.
night of soul.
Yeah, soul searching journey. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd cry before going to work. I'd come out and felt like a fumigated cockroach. It was 2 years of this agonizing journey, and after I couldn't take it anymore, I went to 5 o'clock morning prayer, and I just said, God, I surrender my life to you. I know that. Um, this isn't my calling. I don't see myself behind a screen uh, all day anymore. I know that there's something else out there for me. And so when I got back home, I was sitting on a chair and I started Googling professional organizing. And when I looked it up, I can't describe it beyond I got goosebumps, and I just knew that this is what I had to do. I had been organizing ever since I was a little girl, but it was out of need. It was a therapy for me, and so I just there was something inside of me that just knew this is what I had to do. And the next day when I went to work, I gave my 2 weeks notice. It was just that easy. Well, I'd like to say it was that easy, but but it wasn't quite after that. But I just jumped. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know exactly how to start this. I didn't know how to guide the client at nothing. All I knew is I wanted to help people, because I knew what clutter did, and I knew that I had a skill that would help others to clear the chaos and to find peace in their homes. And I just jumped and started building my website and, and kept going from there. Um, but the real heart behind why I do what I do is when I started organizing, I was 8 years old, and it came out of my father had been arrested for selling drugs when I was 8 years old, and so when my mother found out, she came home really distraught that day, and I was outside with my brother and the neighborhood kids playing tag. And as the oldest, I was very keen, very aware of my surroundings and my siblings. And I ran inside behind her, and she found herself in the bathroom crying. We lived in a very small apartment with just two very small rooms, our living room, and you just cross the living room right into the dining room, and the bathroom was right there. And I knocked on the door, and I said, Mom, are you okay? What's wrong? And she says, I'm okay. I'm okay, mija. Go play. I'm fine. Just trying to be strong. And I remember looking at my surroundings, and it felt heavy. Our space felt very chaotic. So it wasn't just the situation we found ourselves in. Our home just, it did, there was no peace. There was just overwhelm and chaos and just heaviness. And after I insisted for a while for my mom to open the door, she she opens it. I throw myself in her arms, and she says, I'm alone. I feel so alone. And that's often how clutter makes you feel. Whether it's because your partner isn't collaborating with organization, or because there's other circumstances happening in your life. Clutter is a reflection of what's going on inside of you, oftentimes. It's sometimes a reflection of a chaotic schedule, a chaotic calendar. Um, and so there's a lot there to uncover. But that was the beginning of my journey, when I threw myself in my mom's arms and I said, Mom, you're not alone. You have me. And at 8 years old, I didn't quite know what that meant, but I was my mom's right hand. I started decluttering, getting rid of things, creating order, finding homes for things. When my mom would say, Hey, have you seen the nail file? I'd say, Oh, yeah, it's right here. you know, I started creating routines for cleaning up. And so, yeah, that's something that I've been doing since I was very young.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you can see, that is the heart of why I do what I do. And I love sharing it with people. And I know it moves people. It's the reality. Um, Creating organization and beauty in the space, marrying it with what you do in interior design and making spaces beautiful. Uh, it's a great partnership, right? Because it creates beauty not just outside, but it also creates beauty inside, because it allows space for healing. When you're not distracted by the chaos in your environment, you can make space for other things in your life, for your relationship, for your being closer to God, setting time and intention for your faith, spending time with your kids without getting aggravated about their toys on the floor. There's just so much beauty.
Well, each piece of clutter is a stress, and you can only handle so much stress and
Yeah,
what's going on in your life at that time. Maybe it's very little, maybe it's a lot. Sometimes we're just given a lot and you have to deal with it. But each one of those pieces of clutter is a stressor. And so, a lot of people think, oh, well, you know, it doesn't matter. It's just in this one area, or, I'm
right,
used to it. I like clutter around me. And it's like, no, you don't.
right,
You are used to the chaos. And there are some people, they'll tell you they prefer living in a world full of chaos. But honestly, that's part of the trauma effect of it, because nobody really likes living in chaos. Nobody likes living in chaos. Now, and if that chaos isn't there, there's so much more room for other things. You can still be busy, you can still be active, but it doesn't have to be, oh my God, something traumatic just happened all the time.
right.
And so yeah, it's it
Yeah,
is it is a trauma. And I know I get a lot of clients who somebody has died, a parent or a spouse, and now they've suddenly got all this stuff, And what do I do with it? And
Yeah.
some of it comes into their house, and or they're getting rid of this stuff, and that's very traumatic. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, when somebody is going through a loss, that we oftentimes add emotion to the stuff as well. So a mug is just a mug until you attach a story to it, right? And you think, oh, this belonged to my great grandfather that fought in World War II. It it it's a different story, and so it's harder to part with things. When somebody passes, it's you want to give the person space to grieve, and when they're ready, start with easy. Um, and that's really the method that I use, regardless if somebody's grieving or not, because clutter is just it's a muscle. Sometimes it's we aren't taught to deal with stuff management. There is no class on that, and um, you have to take it into in pieces. It's just like working out. When you first start working out, everything hurts, everything feels off. You're not sure if you have the right posture, if you're lifting the right weights. And so, my method is always starting slow, starting with easy stuff like maybe the bathroom where it's toiletries. There's no try to not add emotion to it. It's just lotion, it's just toothpaste, um, and sorting it out and figuring out what you need, and deducting what you don't need, all the excess, all the extra. Because back to my story, that's pretty much all I did. Is like there was so much extra. It was just noise. There were toys we weren't playing with. And I just started from with all the minutia, and then you just start going deeper into, does this add value to my life? Do I love this? Does this serve me? If it's something sentimental, can I implement this in my life? Because if it matters, then you want to care for the item, right? Instead of it just being in a corner collecting dust, then you're not honoring the person or the item.
Right,
Hmm.
right. And the uh, the emotional attachment is difficult, because I had a client recently. He had his mother's grand piano, and it took up a lot of floor space. And the wife didn't want it there. And I'd been there for a while, so it's not like, they just moved in together, and, it had been there for a while. And it was okay, but you couldn't fit. It was difficult for the end chair of the dining table to go into to fully come out. So it was functional, but it wasn't ideal. And I think neither one of them played it. So she finally just said, let's get rid of it. And he had a hard time with it. I mean, this was his mother's piano, but a grand piano is a big thing, you know? And so it worked out that a neighbor down the street took it so he can go visit it.
Yes.
And the neighbor has a kid who wants to learn to play the piano. So he got to do something good, and the piano is now getting played. The piano is happy because the piano
Right.
is loved,
Right.
and he can go visit it whenever he wants. And so it's a win-win all the way around. And sometimes we do have those very large items that, you know, I have people tease me, but I have a statue of Mary about 18 inches tall. And people come in my house and I didn't know you were that religious. Now, here, if you're Catholic, where I have her is not appropriate. She moves around a lot, but it's not appropriate because she's supposed to be kind of an altar, right? And if you're not Catholic, you're just like, Jeanette, why do I didn't know you were that religious. And so either way, I get, you're being disgraceful or you're, but it was my grandmother. And my grandmother, prayer was everything to my grandmother. And so when, my mom was the youngest of nine, so we were the youngest grandchildren. There were great grandchildren and great great grandchildren, but we were the youngest grandchildren. And when she died, we were kind of low on the list of, they were in order of birth, so there was a lot of stuff taken. And I mentioned a few things. Oh no, that's been taken. Oh no, that's been taken. Oh no, that's been taken. I said, okay, so what's there? Well, you couldn't have the 18-inch tattoo of Mary. Like, okay, what am I going to do with it? I don't know. But so she moves around the house. She guarded the couch for a while from the cat scratching on it, and I move her around, and she finds different places. But and no, she doesn't go with my decor, but it's my grandma, and I'm not going to get rid of her because it's my grandma. And so we have these things, and it's like, really, I mean, I've tried putting her in a bunch of different places, but anyway,
Yeah.
um, it, it doesn't always make sense. It was the last thing I would have chosen to have of my grandmother's, but it's my grandma.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And again, it's the story that's been attached to the item, and the story is precious for you.
right?
Now, I'll tell you, it's not the item itself, it's the story you're holding on to and the person you're holding on to, and the statue represents that person that you loved. But parting with it doesn't get rid of your grandma.
No,
It doesn't get rid of the love that you had for her and she had for
absolutely not.
you, right? And for some people, they get to a point where they're ready to part with it. And when you're ready to part with it, it's it's amazing how the weight just kind of it falls off because you've been carrying the weight for so long that when you let go, it just brings a sense of lightness to
It
you.
does.
And you just it's different for everybody. I have worked in sessions where clients cry, and I think, oh my gosh, I just made this person cry.
The
It,
relief
and
tears.
it's hard, but it's not me. They just need somebody to be there with them when they make that hard decision. And at the same time, they feel so much relief because, again, it's not the person. You still have the story with you,
Yeah,
right? That person is still there with you, everything that they taught you, all the values that they ingrained in you.
absolutely. And if it's your parent or a family member, they're literally in your DNA. I mean, like, they're here inside of you. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, there's different reasons we hold on to things, either um, anger or sadness,
yeah,
perceived value, fear, incomplete past. These are all reasons we hold on to things. Doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong with us for having stuff, right? But sometimes we have to come to a crossroads and a realization that it's either we make decisions about our life or this stuff owns us,
right.
right? And sometimes it's just we don't have the space for it. If
Yeah,
you've got the space for it and you want to keep sentimental items, by all means. But sometimes you have to make a tough decision.
yeah,
And as a parent, when you make the tough decisions in front of your kids, it it helps them. It helps give them confidence to make hard decisions because I mean we get to practice making tough decisions on stuff. But when we find ourselves in a real life situation where we have to make a tough decision, we've already had the practice of making tough decisions on stuff, right? Inanimate objects. we can think about it that way. It's we're just practicing making tough decisions.
Yeah. And having somebody you around when you're going through that, especially after there's been a death, because I know after my dad died, there's just stuff I couldn't face. Like, I mean, there was the original empty out of the house. Okay, what do I want? Da, da, what, da, da, da. And, what shouldn't go in the trash. And, there's just like this frenzied every day was a million decisions, right? But then after that, what ended up in my house, like I couldn't touch it. I couldn't touch it by myself. I needed somebody there
Yes.
to to help me face the emotions. It wasn't the clutter I couldn't face. It was the emotions of, you know, 50 years of, stuff that
Yes.
that brought up a lot of feelings for me, and some good, some bad, but like to do that. And like I love what you said about your mom, just I feel all alone. And that's exactly, especially when you've lost somebody, there is this immense feeling of I'm alone. And then now I got to do this difficult thing again by myself. It's overwhelming for a lot of people. And having somebody there to say, you know what, I got you, I got your back.
Right.
And, I was to help you look at it and say, okay, this is really trash, and to ask the sensitive questions. Tell me the story behind this. Okay, sometimes that's what you have to do. Just tell me the story behind this, and then they're able to say, okay, that I need to hold on to the story. I don't need to hold on to the story. But your job is really part therapist. It's not just throwing away trash. It's really part therapist because you're helping them go through all those emotions of whatever the stuff means to them.
Mm-hmm. I'm not a therapist, and we aren't supposed to use that
Oh,
word technically because
sorry.
the therapists they have their own profession and skill set, and
But it is a
are able to
therapy
help.
to
But
declutter.
it is a therapy, and I am able to share my stories to help people come out of that. I am able to shed light on some of the reasons they may be experiencing these things, and that's what I take with me as I go in people's homes and help them with their spaces, because it is a lonely task to take on. Sometimes it's not necessarily emotional clutter, it's just too many decisions coming at you at once. And you feel paralyzed. Like, what to do, how to get rid of things, but for some reason, you're just paralyzed. You
Mhm.
don't know where to start, which corner to tackle first. When you make the decision, what do you do with the stuff? I know I don't want it, but I don't know what to do with it. I don't have time. I have little children I have to feed and take care of. Like, I just don't have time with stuff for stuff. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about creating systems, because it's not just about, yes, those piles get scary and everything, and you could go in and clean everything, but there needs to be systems in place so that it doesn't. I mean, years ago I worked for Closet World, and my house was built in 1926, so it had a crappy closet. Actually, unusually I had a walk-in closet, but it just had like the single wood bars going across. I tell you, I was in that closet every month, cleaning, decluttering, redoing, da da da. It didn't matter how many times I did it, it was still a mess a few weeks later. It was impossible to keep clean. But then working for Closet World, I got my own closet done, and I it was easy to keep clean after that. Like I I mean, I probably cleaned that closet more in the first few years of having it, but after it, it's like everything has a place and a place is in it. So Tell me a little bit about how you create systems so that it's easy to keep it clean.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's the one thing that I've developed once I started growing my business is I've developed a keen eye for a space. I want to create structure. In a closet, there's nothing there; it's an empty cavity. So if there's no place for anything, it's going to become a catch-all.
Mm-hmm.
You lose track of what you have.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what you have, how much of it, where it is oftentimes. And when you think, oh, I got to go clean my room, you think, well, I just got to shove this in this corner, make it disappear, and just make my space livable. And that's the solution to the problem. But it's a band aid, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not an actual solution. So, what you want to do is pull everything out, create structure. In a closet, you want to create that cavity either with a dresser or with a cabinet or something underneath it. Ideally, you want to have a closet built. It's worth the investment. It's
Such
your
a good
peace
one.
of mind. Ideally, because that one rod does nothing for you. It's nothing. It robs you of space. It doesn't use your space appropriately. And so I always, my goal is to have a system that works, because if you keep trying to fix it, you keep running into stress and aggravation because
Mm-hmm.
it's not working. So if we can't fix it the first time, let's have a closet built that fits your needs. Um, and then, yeah, designate what are you going to fold your jeans? Are you going to
Uh-oh. What happened? I don't know what happened. Are we still streaming? Mark, are you there? Did we lose Elva?
I'm still here.
Oh, goody, goody. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So figure out what you have and where it's going to go, right? Give everything a home. Are you going to fold your jeans? Are you going to hang your jeans? Um, Same with your t-shirts. Do you have the hanging space for t-shirts, or are we going to fold them? So everything needs a place. And once everything has a place, it gets labeled, not because we want it to look like a school with labels. There's pretty ways to do it with clear labels and black text or white text, however, but this does multiple things. First, it helps you find your things. It helps you quickly at a glance identify where things are. And then secondly, a second, when you are tired and exhausted, you're tired. You don't have the mental capacity to organize at that point. You just want to rest, you want to put your stuff down. And so these labels are a gentle reminder of where things go. There's less effort into putting things back in their place. And that's a well rounded system. You want to make sure to declutter always. Sometimes people think that you can skip the decluttering and then organize it, and then they'll figure out what to get rid of. It doesn't work that way. You want to go through the process of identifying what you need, what you want, what serves you, and then organize it. Because what happens then, you run out of space because you're trying to jam a bunch of stuff in there.
And a quick question. Sorry about that little glitch and everything. I've been listening to y'all have a fascinating conversation. As Jeanette would tell you, I am probably the worst organizer in the world because I am Mr. Pack Rat and Mr. Non organized person. And one of the things that I've been doing lately, and I'd love to hear your thoughts around this, Elva and everything, is I have a series, partially because I sometimes get food from the produce box of boxes. So I'm probably guilty of doing what you say we shouldn't do, which is I keep putting stuff in the boxes with the intention of going through the boxes but then I never go through the boxes. So I've actually put them in the boxes, and then the stuff stays in the boxes. And then I find myself, as I was doing that earlier, because I hate to say this, but I'm one of those procrastinators, and I'm literally getting ready to run as soon as we're done with this show to get in early voting. But I had to find some records that I needed in order to early vote, like namely a bill that would have my address and all along those lines, because that's all they require in North Carolina and everything. But as I was searching for that, I was like, yep, I know I got it in one of these boxes, but I have now disorganized that box. That was because the intention, just to be honest, Elva, was to put it in the box and eventually go through the box, but then the box kind of like is off to the side, so it never gets dealt with and everything. So any suggestions? Do I just need to give up this box methodology, because it doesn't seem to be working?
That's a great question, Mark. So, clutter is nothing more than postponed decisions.
Right.
You've postponed it. How long have you postponed it?
Oh, I probably postponed it for decades.
Yeah. What I would do is set up a Pomodoro clock. There's an app called Pomodoro, and it gives you 25 minutes on the clock. And for 25 minutes, just focus on that box, sorting it, and deciding what to get rid of.
Good. I
And
like that.
it takes longer in our heads than it actually in reality takes.
The anticipation of doing it is worse than the actual doing it most times.
Yes. And so you just want to get started.
Oh,
And if it's not serving you, you can get rid of it. Another helpful tip is if it costs less than $20 and you can get it within 20 miles, usually through Amazon, then you can let it go without fear of, I might need it someday.
And I guess that's part of the fear, because I'm just being perfectly honest and candid, is that I do, as not just this production, but just in life in general, a lot of organizing and even some event organizing as well. So the fear is that, because it has happened to me before, is that I will throw away something that I eventually need, and all along those lines. So that's why I get caught in some, because I know that there are literally papers here of things that I have had, including budgets of boards that I am no longer on and everything. But I'm like, but there is a possibility, because like one board you can serve on for 2 terms and then you can go back on. So there's a possibility I could go back on that board. So I know that sometimes when I look at that, I'm like, but what do I go back on that board? I might need that and everything along those lines.
Yeah.
So it's this notion of things that I am fearful that I might need, even though there's no reasonable reason that I would ever need the document whatsoever. But it's just like a fear that it may come back into necessity. And I have been burned a couple of times, and that might be what is problematic, is I've been burned to where there have been things that I needed, finally got the nerve to throw it away, threw it away, didn't ever think I would need it again. And then somebody would call me and be like, you remember that show we did such and such a time? Do you still have such and such? And I'm going like, yeah, I did, but I don't anymore. So it's that kind of like fear of losing stuff that you may eventually need.
Yeah. So great insight. Thank you for sharing that. I give you two tips.
Please.
First, going back to what I was sharing earlier about stuff management is how we practice making decisions in life, right? So you got rid of it, you learned something. Whether it's the type of file you have to keep, so you need an organization for that type of file so that it doesn't happen again.
Right.
And you learned something, right? You just have to learn the lesson, and then it won't happen again. And then the other thing I was going to say is, part of the reason people do get rid of things is because they don't have an organization system for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to let y'all go back because I want to take over and everything. But the other thing that's been really interesting, because even my mom teases me about this, I think I mentioned to Jeanette as well, is I am notorious, and sometimes it's a little small item, but those small items can add up as well. I am notorious and probably got hundreds of stacks. I could literally show them to you if I would bother to get up and everything, of business cards. And what my mom has always said is, Mark, you might need those people, not need them in a negative sense, but those contacts might be useful. The business card, not as much. So she's been trying to encourage me to actually put them into some sort of manageable file and then get rid of the cards. But sometimes you also like the cards. You'll love this, Jeanette and everything. Sometimes the cards are colorful and they kind of look cute and everything. Sometimes you also wind up keeping them because they have a cuteness factor as well, and everything might be a certain color, might be a certain logo on it or whatever. Because I know that I have justified not throwing away things because I'm going like,
Right.
I got the information in the card and I've got the information, but the
Yes.
cat logo is cute.
Yes. Yeah.
I tell
Yeah.
people you go to networking and they always like, oh, here's my card, here's my card, here's my card. And if it's somebody I care about, I'm like, they go on my phone. And then I'm like, you know what? Keep your card. You're in my phone, and that's way better than being a card. Because we as entrepreneurs, we network, and people are always giving us cards. And I do the thing like, okay, that pile's been sitting there for a year.
Right.
Have I contacted anybody? No. Has anybody contacted me? No. Throw it away. You can't. You can't. And occasionally I go through them. I do have a couple stacks I've gone through a few times, and I'm like, okay, well maybe. But then like the next time I go through, I'm like, I still haven't talked to them. Why am I keeping them?
Yeah.
Yes.
If I called them up tomorrow, they would be like, who?
Yes.
So
Well, sometimes you need like a system.
right.
I developed a system for my networking cards. It's like I come back from a networking, I follow them on Instagram, I follow them on Facebook, and then if they are power partners, I take it up, I add them to a spreadsheet, and I say, this, they're realtors or they're movers or whatever category they are. And then I send them an email and say, it was so good connecting with you and meeting you at such and such event. So you've developed a system.
Yes.
So that's the reason maybe that you have these cards piling up is you don't know what to do with them. But a great way to relieve some of that is to start fresh. Sometimes you have to
File 13.
develop the system, and then if it's too big of a pile, just trash them and start fresh with the next batch that you start over again. Sometimes you just have to start over.
It's so true. And I mean, that comes in a lot of times when people are moving, because you do a lot with helping people move. And one of the big things I see is like their furniture fit in one house, but it doesn't fit in the next house. Well, maybe they've got a smaller closet. Maybe they've got a smaller kitchen. A lot of people are downsizing because maybe they used to be a family of 5 and now it's 2 or even 1. And like they don't need all that stuff. And so it's again, letting go. We only have a few minutes left. I want to see, you've given us some great tips, but is there like a couple tips that you want to really put out there as far as like, how do I get started?
Yeah, so I would start, it depends on everybody's space, right? But I would choose a room that's going to make the biggest difference for you. It could either be your kitchen or your bedroom. And then I would start in a drawer. Because the clutter on the outside is a reflection of the clutter on the inside. And sometimes you can't organize the outside clutter because the inside, there's no system, rhyme, or reason. If you can see your floors, I would start in a drawer. But if you can't see your floors,
you got to start with a floor.
Then I would have you start in a corner.
Yes.
And just focus on that corner making a dent. And you're not going to be able to organize things, but you'll be able to sort things to get clarity on what you own.
Well, it helps you because it helps you at least start throwing stuff away. And I'm going to throw this away. I'm going to donate it. So by doing that, I know, I do it periodically, and I always think joke. I lost 10 pounds this time. I lost 30 pounds. Because the house feels so much lighter, and so whenever you do that, it's like you're gonna, if you've got 100 pounds of clutter and you get rid of 10 pounds, it still feels better. And then you can take on another 10 pounds. Like you're not going to lose, if it was your body, you're not going to lose 100 pounds overnight. You're going to start with, what's your first goal? 10 pounds. Okay. You get that 10 pounds gone. Hey,
I
Mark.
Yes.
get programmed by decluttering. I love this because I need to lose some weight as well and everything. So I'm loving this idea, Jeanette, and all of this. I did have a quick question for you again. Oh, I'm sorry to bother again, but one of the hardest rooms in my mind, and I've seen this with both my parents as well as aunts and uncle, and you kind of alluded to it earlier. But what tips do you have for people, particularly spouses, whether they're husband and wife or boyfriend, girlfriend, and everything. Because I think that one of the hardest rooms to organize because everybody it's a confined space and everybody wants their personal stuff in that space is the bathroom. So, what is your advice for declutter the bathroom? Because it is, in my mind, it is one of the hardest rooms to declutter, particularly if you are in a spousal relationship, whatever that relationship is. Because let's be honest, you women have lots of different supplies and everything, and us men can also have a lot of different things if you do the whole shaving thing and all along those lines. So,
I've seen men that have more stuff than women, like most women. I'm like,
Yeah,
I've been in
I
bathrooms. I'm
have
like,
seen.
wow, this is nuts.
I have seen issues with space, and I understand where you're coming from. Sometimes women, we can take over our husbands' closets as well,
More often
just
than
a corner, right? And so the tips that I would suggest, I do actually have three tips I want to leave your audience with, and these are guiding principles that I established for myself when I started organizing, and those are: honor your boundaries.
mhm.
You only have, that's the space you have. Unless you move to a bigger house, that's the space you have. Just like the ocean has a boundary and it says the water goes up to here, when there's no boundary, you have tornadoes and there's chaos. So honor your boundaries, stay within the confinement of that category. And when you notice things coming out of the boundary, it's time to declutter.
Yeah.
Right? And you want to honor it. That's the space you have. That's how much volume you can have of that stuff, of that item, whether it be your clothes or your toiletries, whatever it is. The other one is progress, not perfection. Don't worry about making things perfect or getting things perfect or giving it to the right person, getting it perfectly donated to the person that needs it, right? The God that provides for you provides for them, and He will make sure that whoever needs that item will get that item. Your goal is to create peace for you. That's your first goal. And so you just need to find where to donate, a simple way to donate, and your trash can. That's all you need. So progress, not perfection. And then the third one is letting go makes space for something better. And it's hard to let go, but you can't receive if you're clenching onto things. You've got to let go to receive.
I'm actually going to tease my fellow men here. I gave you women a hard time, but I'm actually going to tease my fellow men. But women are just as guilty and everything. Because one of the things that us guys have a hard time letting go of and everything is we are. And I'm not saying that there aren't women that aren't sports fans. I mean, you might be a sports fan. I don't think Jeanette is, but you might be Elva of certain Los Angeles teams and everything. But we have a real hard time letting go of our jerseys. And some women would argue that we have a hard time letting go of
Concert T-shirt.
personal items as well as in personal space as well, but things that are personally attached to our body. But I know we really have a hard time letting go of that T-shirt because, like, I live in Durham, North Carolina, and I got friends that have the Bulls outfits, and I've also got friends that I got UNC and Duke outfits, and some of those outfits might be 15, 20 years old because they had a hard time because they identify with the team that they root for. So yes, us guys can sometimes have a hard time letting go of things that we root for and everything. I'm not saying you women don't, because there's some women that are some diehard fans as well and everything. But
Human
what
nature.
advice would you give to folks that are so attached to their jerseys and their teams? I even know some people, not myself, thank goodness. There are some jerseys I've got, but not this is and festivals that I've got that are probably way too old. But I will. I have seen friends that literally have their high school jerseys and high school stuff, and they probably graduated like 40, 50 years ago and everything. So what would you say to folks that can't let go of their sports identities, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, yes, it is identity. It's called identity clutter. If you've got the space for it, if it serves you, then no pressure. You don't have to get rid of it. You've got the space for it. It serves you. But clutter is anything that does not add value to your life And so you've got to take a look at these items. If you have 20, if you can narrow it down to make sure it fits in your drawer, then you've got it. But if it's not serving you, how many times can you rotate or change these jerseys,
Right.
right? You've got 365 days in a year. How many times will you wear these shirts?
Right.
Right? If you're only going to go to 5 sports events, or there's only certain holidays that you wear them, then the rest is excess.
Right.
It's it is a we do add identity to our stuff, but it's not, it won't take anything away if you part with these jerseys.
Yep.
You are still Mark. Mark is still Mark. Mark is still special.
Yep.
Even if you get rid of 3 LA, you just say LA Dodgers,
Right. Yeah.
LA Dodger shirts.
Yep. Well, ironically, as I was telling Jeanette, that we'll let y'all go back to wrap the show up. My aunt, and I figured out it's that identity politics. Yeah, I mean, identity that you're talking about. And I don't know that she has any Dodgers outfits, but she became a Dodgers fan because her father, my grandfather, was a Dodgers fan at the time that they were the Brooklyn Dodgers. So she's literally, even though she's never lived in the West Coast, is jumping up and down now and has been for the last 2 days because the Dodgers went ahead and won that World Series. So she was literally jumping up and down when I called her yesterday, going like, because she has a fellow nephew, not myself, but another one that's a diehard Yankees fan. So I can't wait till Thanksgiving because I know they're going to be taunting each other. So well, she'll be taunting him and everything. But definitely, I can identify that people have their identities, because I would not be surprised if Aunt Julie doesn't have a Dodger shirt somewhere in that house.
Yes, yes,
Maybe
it
a couple.
doesn't take anything away from you when you part with things. Um, it's similar to Louis Vuitton bags. If I get rid of a Louis Vuitton bag, does that mean I'm not prestigious? We give these identity to things, and we see ourselves a certain way. And sometimes it's we wish we were that way. And other times it's just, yeah, we just identify with that type of person.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's all part of decluttering and releasing what doesn't serve us and healing. It's all part of the journey.
It is. It is. Awesome. Well, let us know, how can we work with you?
Yes.
And do
So
you work virtually? And
I,
this is worldwide here.
I'm sorry?
This is worldwide here.
Oh, nice, nice. So I have what you call virtual pitch it parties. Um, and what I would do, this is a virtual event, and you're in your home, um, in the space that's bothering you, and I pretty much coach you through where to get started and walk through anything you get stuck on. But it's a way to have accountability and support to declutter your own space virtually. And to work with me here in San Dimas, California, and surrounding areas, you can go to my website at sensationalorganizing.com. You can also visit us on our Instagram page. You can find us at the Sensational Organizing there as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on. This was a pleasure. And I think you've got a lot more tips. If you want to come back another day, we could do some more. Because
Absolutely,
this
Jana.
went by way too fast. I'm like,
I
it's
had a blast.
already.
I've had a blast chatting with you. It's so easy to talk to you, and I thoroughly enjoy our friendship as well.
Agreed, agreed. No, this was a lot of fun, and you gave away some really good tips. And what I love is how much you went into the heart of it. It's not just, I mean, there's that famous book we all know, and she doesn't. I haven't read the book, but the bits I've seen from it doesn't get into this part of it. And this to me is such. It's not just about what can you throw away. It's how do you do it, and I love your heart and how much you give to your clients. So
Thank you so much.
And on that note, we're going to go do some can do spice because we got to declutter our bodies and not put crap in our bodies either. And one great way to do that is by putting good spices in your food. So, can do spice will help you declutter and clean out that body as well.
You know how people love to enjoy food and don't understand how to flavor their food or how to replicate a meal? They're interested in supplements but don't know where to begin? Well, what I do is I take the guesswork out of enjoying flavor and wellness with my flavorful spice blends so that they can create delicious meals with healing benefits. Can Do Spice was created to help cooks at any level enjoy healing through food. Every spice blend was designed to give added health benefits of natural herbs. Every blend is complete. There's no need to add any additional spice for a delicious meal. Saving you time and money while adding supplements to your meals can be both tasty and fun. My earliest memories in the kitchen began with my father, Kenny Can Do Bond, so it was fitting that I would name this line after him. I have always looked to natural remedies to supplement the body, and I found myself hiding herbs and minerals in foods for my family. That's when it hit me. Everyone needs Can Do Spice. Everyone should be having this. It's an exclusive brand for cooks at any level who want to create flavorful dishes with healing benefits that can satisfy the body and soul. Add a little spice to your life. Give Can Do Spice a try.